Okay. Welcome to the School Safety Town Hall. As we begin, I invite you to review the housekeeping items placed in the chat. My name is Chantel Coda, and I am the Director of School Safety and Student Services at the Utah State Board of Education. I believe that safety is a community issue, and today you will be hearing from Chief Matt Pennington and members of the School Safety Center on some very important safety topics. I am so pleased you could join us to learn about policies, procedures, and practices affecting school safety. There's an African proverb stating that it takes a village to raise a child. I believe it also takes a village to create and sustain safe and healthy learning environments for our children, and I thank you for being part of that village. The work of the Utah State Board of Education is guided by a strategic plan. Our strategic plan provides a shared vision for the future of Utah's education system. It identifies a vision for Utah students upon completion and also orients USBE's efforts internally as we focus on our mission of creating the conditions for student success. Each goal of the plan provides high leverage strategies to align efforts toward impacting each goal. Goal 3 of the strategic plan is to provide safe and healthy schools for all learners. In order to support schools in hosting safe and healthy schools for all learners, the Utah State Board of Education has a school safety and student services section. As the director of this school safety and student services section, I work with 3 teams: student services, the school safety center, and prevention. The student services team supports local education agencies with items related to school-based mental health, school nursing, school counseling, and behavior. The School Safety Center supports local education agencies with policies and technical assistance related to school safety and consists of USBE staff working with liaisons from the Department of Public Safety, the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, and Safe UT. And the prevention team supports local education agencies in items such as gang prevention, restorative practices, suicide prevention, and the protective factor framework. Now, I would like to turn the time over to the State Security Chief, Matt Pennington.
As you can see, we are tasked with basing established recommendations on school safety standards and best practices through engaged partnerships with State Board, the School Safety Center, the folks that you'll see on this call and hear from in county, local law enforcement as well will be helping us. So there's a lot of work that's been being done. I want to say thanks to the School Safety Center personnel for their collaboration in trying to get all this messaging out. I know that a lot of you probably have questions or are hoping to hear certain information. And I can't advance the slide, so I'm not sure who's doing that. All right. So the vision, mission, values for the division: provide safe and secure environment to learn, work, and recreate statewide. We're going to do that through professional service and engaged partnerships. It's really important that we have a collaborative approach with all of you as stakeholders, law enforcement or education. And then the people that are being brought into my office. We almost have a full team at this point. You'll see in a slide here shortly. But we expect them to be professional, collaborative for all of you, and then innovative in coming up with ideas and solutions that may be unique to all of your different environments as you're throughout the state, whether it's Wasatch Front, rural Utah, Wasatch back. Here's the current organizational chart. So the state is broke up into 8 regions. You can see the counties that they're responsible for listed below them. We have 6 of them in place. We have 2 of them that are in the final process for background. We hope to have them in the next month or so completed with that process, and then we'll be fully staffed for the most part as far as region and sergeants that you could reach out to in your respective areas for information. So that's the overview of the division, and I'll let the rest of the team get into the weeds on what's been going on at their level.
Thank you, Chief. I'm Lieutenant Jeremy Barnes with the Division of State Security, but I'm the school safety liaison between the Department of Public Safety and the Utah School Safety Center. The School Safety Center is comprised of members of the Utah State Board of Education, the Division of State Security, the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, and an engaged partnership with Safe UT. We assist local education agencies throughout the state and law enforcement agencies in collaboratively navigating school safety legislation, as well as providing technical support for any school safety needs they may encounter, which includes training, best practices, things like that. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. This is the Department of Public Safety channels of information flow that we have based off of HB 84 and HB 61. So obviously Chief Pennington and the office here at the Division of State Security is going to fall under that state security chief component. Through our 8 regional liaisons, we will be coordinating with the county security chiefs, the school safety and security directors, as well as the individual school safety specialists at the local LEA level. From there, school safety and security specialists, back up a little bit if you could, thank you. The school safety and security specialists are really foundational in the work that we have been doing at the School Safety Center. We've put a lot of work and emphasis on those individuals throughout the last few years. They can coordinate directly with us with their concerns at the School Safety Center, as can the school safety and security directors, county security chiefs, and obviously I serve as the liaison between the School Safety Center and DPS. So there's a lot of free-flowing information between the different entities. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page and continuing that collaborative effort. And I'll turn the time over now to Rhett Larson.
Good afternoon, everybody. Rhett Larson, School Safety Center Coordinator for the Utah State Board of Education. And as you know, Utah continues to learn with and from other states. And the state of Utah continues to focus on and emphasize on the importance of school safety. We have a lot of support through various leaders of lots of agencies, as well as a lot of legislative support. Just to point out some of that legislation, back in 2019 with the Student and School Safety Assessment Bill, House Bill 120, that's what originally formed the School Safety Center, of bringing those agencies together, those experts, to really look at where are we and where do we need to go within school safety. And then, as you know, the last 2 years, we have had legislation that really has allowed us to continue to grow within school safety. We've come a long ways and we have a long ways to go. We are glad that you're here. We're excited to provide these additional resources and support for you as you look to implement these new school safety requirements. Really quickly, I would like to introduce you to Melissa Molstein, who is our new support staff for the School Safety Center. As you know, you worked previously a lot with Melissa. So would you just quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm excited to be here. My name is Melissa Mulestein, and I'm the Executive Secretary with the School Safety Center.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, friends, I'm now going to turn it over to Ashley Postello.
Hi, thanks so much, Rhett. Hi, my name is Ashley Postello. I am the School Safety Center Specialist at the Utah State Board of Education. Thank you so much for being here and joining us this afternoon to talk about Utah school safety. One piece of housekeeping before we dive into our Utah School Safety Playbook is about the School Safety and Security Specialists. Specifically the Utah grants application and designee form that LEAs will be submitting. So the FY25 School Safety and Security Specialist Grant and Qualtrics, that is a piece that LEAs at the LEA level will complete and submit to us at the Board of Education. So that is currently open, and the application process should have hit your inbox last week. So there are 2 steps to that process. The first one is to complete the LEA accountability report, and that is a Qualtrics survey that could be found inside the Utah grants application. So again, LEA admin, LEA personnel will log into Utah grants, begin to access that Utah grants application, the School Safety and Security Specialist grant application. And within that application, you will find a link for this fiscal year 25 LEA accountability report in Qualtrics. And that Qualtrics link is due by October 15th. And that accountability report is collecting all of the designated school safety and security specialists at your schools throughout and within your LEA. So when you sit down to complete that Qualtrics form, some pieces of information you'll need to have on hand is information about the LEA School Safety and Security Director contact information and picture, and that is listed out in statute. Also, the LEA Business Administrator contact information, the Superintendent Charter School Director contact information, and then lastly, each school's designated school safety and security specialist, their contact information. So once that form in Qualtrics is submitted and complete, folks can continue to fill out that Utah grants application and complete that Utah grants application portion, again, by that same due date of October 15th this year. Another thing we want to share with you all that the stipends attached to that school safety and security specialist grant program is $3,000 per specialist. And that is an ongoing fund that we have available to you all. So every year we will have new Utah grants application and new Qualtrics accountability report process, because we do have ongoing funds to provide you up to $3,000 a stipend for your specialists. It will vary between LEAs and specialists based on salaries and benefits, but that stipend is that $3,000. And again, it is ongoing, so it is available year after year. The last piece of information is our first training for school safety and security specialists. Considering all forms are due by October 15th, we do have our first onboarding training with them scheduled for Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, from 2:30 to 3:30 via Zoom. And there will be more communication sent out to specialists regarding that onboarding. And then all additional trainings throughout this school year will be shared with them at that first onboarding webinar. I will turn it over back to Rhett.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Since June, the Utah School Safety Center, in collaboration with Matt Pennington, Chief Matt Pennington and his team, we have worked together in developing the Utah School Safety Playbook, a guide for Utah public schools, which is a resource to help support. It's aimed to support LEAs and schools with implementing the new school safety requirements. We hope that this will be a great resource for you. We hope it'll provide answers to your questions, and this will be available on our website after this town hall under the School Safety Center resources page. We will also be sending out a link to this resource page to all of you at the end of this town hall. So again, thank you for being here. This is a great resource. We want to introduce some of the pieces to you, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to now turn it back over to Ashley Postello.
Thanks so much, Rhett. Rhett has already talked briefly about the history of the School Safety Center. But yes, in the spring of 2019, the Utah State Legislature passed House Bill 120, Student and School Safety Assessment Bill. And this is what formed the School Safety Center, a group of professionals from the Utah State Board of Education, the Utah Department of Public Safety, and the Utah Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, and then an active partnership with Safe UT at the Huntsman Mental Health Institute. So we are a big multidisciplinary team here at the state. Our mission together is to work collaboratively to provide technical assistance, training, and resources that support local education agencies' commitment to ensuring school safety and improving the climate of school communities. Our vision is that each student learns in a safe and healthy school environment. Scott?
Thanks, Ashley. Scott Ayer, Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, and I am a liaison to the State Board of Education and sit on the School Safety Center. One of the things that we want to bring to your attention is the purpose of this playbook, and I think we've alluded to it, but this is to act as a resource to the field to help keep our schools safe places where real learning and education can take place. And I want to emphasize keep our schools safe, because they are safe spaces. We are doing a lot of work to keep them that way, and I applaud everybody's effort that's in the room today to do this work. Also, I want to point back to what Chantel mentioned and echo that this is a community responsibility, and it's a huge responsibility and should not and cannot be left solely on schools. It's an all hands on deck approach, bringing together key stakeholders. You've heard it over and over, multidisciplinary, multi-agency. We are trying to model that at a state level. And if you're not paying attention, please do. We would love to see this replicated at the local level as MOUs are formed and relationships are formed to bring multiple stakeholders to the conversation around school safety. Also, this can be very difficult. Schools, for sure, those working in schools and professionals, but parents, students, it impacts the entire community, especially when it feels like the violence that's taking place in schools is reoccurring, or that the intensity or the duration of these issues begin to impact our day-to-day lives. This can impact our mental health, and it can impact the health and wellness of our schools. So thank you for showing up, for prioritizing the work. I want to recognize that we're all in this together and we're all trying to get it right. So there's a lot of moving pieces. So in addition to the existing safety standards, we're seeing new legislation, rules, regulations. There's creation of new positions that you're seeing, new technology, new ideas and practices. So in essence, this playbook is being created as a way to give LEAs and other key stakeholders a high-level overview of the current school safety initiatives. And I think as you dig into this, you're going to find that there's a focus on the new physical safety and the personnel requirements. However, there's going to be considerations within policy, procedures, and again, the teaming approach and the multi-agency collaboration. The legislators in Utah have spoken. I don't see this going away. There is a focus on school safety, and it will lead to increased school safety requirements. So to be clear, this playbook is intended for the local education agencies and stakeholders to help guide them as they're trying to understand the laws and policies surrounding school safety. Let's see, if we want to move to that timetable page. Within the playbook, you're going to find that there is a timetable that hopefully you find is helpful, is kind of a track of the current requirements and implementation of legislation. It's not going to be a full inclusive list. However, I think when we're looking at what's what and when things have happened within the legislative process, this will be a helpful resource for you. And before I hand it over to Lieutenant Barnes, I'm going to encourage you to visit the website often. We look at this as a living document. And those of you that download the PDF, there is a link that's been embedded within the PDF for your convenience so that you can always bounce back to the most current version that's available. And again, will be posted, as Rhett mentioned, on the School Safety Center website under Resource tab. And finally, I want to also just make sure it's mentioned and clear that we do have a training request portal. It also includes technical assistance requests. If there's questions or need clarification, or you'd like to reach a member of the School Safety Center for additional support, we're here to offer that to you. We know it can be a lot. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Scott. So roughly 92 pages of legislation were passed in regards to school safety this year. This playbook is taking all of that information and putting it in a very digestible format, hopefully for all stakeholders that may be involved, from the LEAs to the county security chiefs, all the way up to my office at the Division of State Security. We wanted to take it, summarize it, and put it in a very easy to access form. There are a variety of the statutes that are in there, things that are referenced that are hyperlinked in there for your convenience as well. So the first big highlighted item that we want to discuss is the school safety personnel positions. I'll first highlight the school safety and security specialist. This is not a new position. This was created last year through HB 61. Many of the individuals on this call currently are school safety specialists that were in place last year and are continuing their work this year. I want to take the moment and thank all of you for your collaborative efforts over the last year and your flexibility in navigating the situation, navigating the landscape as we have been creating it and doing that in a collaborative manner. So thank you to all the school safety and security specialists that are currently on this call. Every campus within a local education agency shall designate a school safety and security specialist. The change this year from last year is that it cannot be the principal. Maybe the LEAs, in some circumstances, the LEA school safety and security director can be the school safety specialist at one campus. I'm going to use an example for charter schools. In this situation, if you have a charter that has a variety of campuses, the school safety specialist at one of those campuses can also serve as the school safety and security director. These individuals report directly to the principal. They ensure adherence to policies and procedures involving school safety. They review emergency operations plans. They look at the behavioral threat assessment procedures and guidelines and ensure those are being operated to fidelity. They also have to participate on the school's multidisciplinary teams as it pertains to behavioral threat assessment and management, and it will collaborate with the county security chief on the annual needs assessments. We have come into a situation where the needs assessments, which we will be getting to later, where the needs assessments are being done without collaboration or knowledge of the county security chief. That needs to be. So as those needs assessments are starting to be completed, being done, those need to be done in conjunction with the school safety security specialist, as well as the county security chief or their designee. So individuals with local law enforcement agencies that the county security chief has determined would be suitable to serve on those assessment panels. The next one would be the LEA School Safety and Security Director. Each LEA shall appoint a school safety and security director. They serve as the point of contact for the county security chief, local law enforcement, and individuals from my office here at Division of State Security. They must have a valid concealed carry permit and participate in the training requirements for the Guardian program in order to hold this position. They have to ensure adherence to policies and procedures and regulations relating to school safety, very similar to the school safety and security specialists. They may temporarily fill in for a guardian. So, for example, if there is a guardian who is assigned at one school and they're off sick and there's nobody else to fill in, the school safety and security director could fill in at that location on a temporary basis. The name, contact information, and photograph of the school safety and security director will be collected by the state security chief, and that information will be utilized and readily available for law enforcement needs in emergency situations. The school guardian, we're going to get into the guardian components here. An LEA shall ensure that each school in LEA has at least one of the following: school resource officer, a school guardian, or armed security guard. Before we dive too deep into the school guardian, I want to make sure that there's an understanding of each of these individual roles. The school resource officer is a certified and sworn law enforcement officer through the state of Utah who is currently working for an agency, and the primary responsibility of that individual is to provide school-based services or school-based policing services to a school or an LEA through a memorandum of understanding between the school district, LEA, and the law enforcement agency. The guardian, and we'll get into it a little bit further, but it is a school employee. So it is an employee of the school already in existence. This is not a school guardian component is not an FTE. This is an individual already. Can you kick the slide back, please? It's an individual already employed by the school fulfilling other roles, but they volunteered to take on this additional assignment. And then the armed security officer. This would be an individual who works for a armed security company, and the company enters into a memorandum of understanding or an agreement between that armed security company and the local LEA. Next slide, please. So again, school guardian is an employee who volunteers for the role and meets the following requirements. The school administrator has to approve the employee to enter the program. We've been having conversation with LEAs of school administrators potentially not feeling comfortable with some of the individuals within their school community that have volunteered. The school administrator has to approve the employee to enter the program. They have to complete the school guardian training program within 6 months of taking the role, and they have to hold a valid concealed carry permit. They have to successfully complete a mental health screening selected by the state security chief in collaboration with the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health. And to get further into the details on the mental health screening, I'm going to kick it back over to Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, we've got a lot of questions on this, and this will be the first time we're sharing this information with the field. And of course, it will be a part of the playbook. You can access that. And if there are clarifying questions on the back end, again, please send them our way. But I want to speak specifically to the mental health screening component of the Guardian program and share the recommendation that the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health has made with Chief Pennington, and that's being codified and will be implemented moving forward. This recommendation was made by looking at what other states are doing and by consulting with leading experts in our state. And so if you're a guardian or may become a guardian, or if you're a part of the selecting of a guardian, pay attention. You're going to need to comply with the following. Within the selection process, new guardians must pass a fit to carry assessment prior to commencing their duties. I'll speak more on the fit to carry assessment in just a moment. But the second part of our recommendation is that existing guardians participate in at least one mental health screening per calendar year as part of their annual recertification requirements. This second part of the recommendation is intended to align with current standards of law enforcement that really ensures that access to mental health resources and supports are available. We know the job can be difficult, and we know that guardians are acting in some degree as pseudo law enforcement, and those burdens may be felt. We want to ensure that they are supported, regardless of whether it's the job duties or other things in life that are impacting their mental health, that they have a continual access to resources and mental health support should and when they need it. This is unique to Utah's Guardian program, and it's something that other states are looking at as we are leading the way on it, with the intent of possibly mirroring what we are doing. So we are excited about the second part of this, and more information will come on that. I do want to speak, if we can go to the next slide, to the fit to carry assessment. So what is a fit to carry assessment? Well, that term fit to carry is a new term for our state, and it was developed specifically to meet the need of the Guardian program. It is defined as a series of psychological tests administered by a professional with level C qualifications to include, and there's 4 components there, a personality assessment, a symptom screener, an in-person interview, and a reference check of at least one reference provided by the Guardian. Just a couple clarifying points on this. There already is an existing network of level C professionals that conduct law enforcement psychological assessments. And LEAs and guardians will likely be tapping into this network for the fit to carry assessments. We are currently in communication with some of the leading experts in the field to prepare them for this role and how to support the Guardian program. Those that, I guess maybe for additional clarification, for those that don't know, level C qualification is the highest level of qualification in our state. A person with this level of qualification is licensed to practice in Utah, holding a doctorate degree in psychology or education or closely related field, and has formal training in the ethical administration, scoring, and interpretation of these clinical assessments. That's important to know because it is unlikely that a school psychologist working in your district is going to perform these unless they are trained to administer the required assessments and they've been given that clinical background, and all ethical aspects of the sensitive information that takes place within a workplace has been considered. Additionally, and to add some context to this, the consideration for the fit to carry recommendation, it included costs and accessibility. And when we look at what law enforcement is required to do for their psychological assessments, we understood that the job duties of a guardian were different. And that's why this has been made the recommendation, but yet still keeping the standard high, because we want to ensure that the right folks are selected for the additional responsibilities that are required of them. And so more information can come. Again, if there's any more drilled down detailed information, please reach out to us. But we are anticipating this to be rolling out here in the near future. Go ahead, Jeremy.
All right, next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit of responsibilities from my office as it pertains to the school guardian. We will be tracking each school guardian participating in the program. Again, the name, contact information, and their photograph will be collected by our office. We want to make sure that that guardian information is readily available to local law enforcement in the event of those active emergencies. Our office is also responsible for the one-time stipend of $500 to each of the guardians that come into the program. The guardian information is private, controlled, and protected. The identity of the guardian can only be known by the state security chief, the county security chief, the school administrator, local law enforcement, and other school safety personnel. So this would be the LEA school safety and security director, school safety and security specialists. Anybody else that doesn't have a need to know that it's protected information. And individuals who knowingly or intentionally provide information about the guardian is guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. Just wanted to highlight the school guardian training program. It has been released to the county security chiefs, and they will be responsible at the county level for either collaborating with multiple counties, collaborating with their chiefs within their entities, or holding the program themselves. But it is a 28-hour course, fulfilling the needs of the statute for the initial baseline training. And again, the county security chiefs have that information. They will be looking to roll that out in the coming months as the demographic of their counties adjust to that. And then there's the annual training requirement as well, and a biannual training requirement that the county security chief would be charged with implementing. And my office will also be assisting with that as well. So the application for alternatives, I wanted to touch on this before I kick it over to Willie for the needs assessments. But our office has the responsibility of conducting or looking at applications for alternatives. They're referred to as the approved alternatives in statute. If an LEA is having difficulty fulfilling the needs of the statute, they may be able to apply to the security chief for alternatives based upon the following conditions: population size, staffing needs or capacity, geographic location, and a general demonstration of need for an alternative. On that general demonstration of need for an alternative, it may be a situation within your LEA that doesn't fit within population size. It doesn't fit within staffing need or capacity. It doesn't fit within geographic location, but you have a concern, or you have a demonstrated need that you would be able to articulate, and a solution for that consideration. Then our office would look at those applications and determine whether or not to approve or deny those. Some of the predetermined exceptions already built in is if there's an enrollment size fewer than 350, then the same individual may serve in more than one role. So you may have a school safety and security specialist that could also serve in the role of a guardian. And so there are some built-in exceptions for that. And then if there's an enrollment fewer than 100, the school employee can be modified to include a teacher or a principal. All right, Willie, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm Willie Chen, and I'm the School Safety Data Analyst. And I'm just going to briefly talk about the School Safety Needs Assessment. This is required by Utah Code Section 53G 8701.5, and it requires each school to conduct a School Safety Needs Assessment. It also requires the results to be reported, and for each school to the State Security Chief and the School Safety Center. The results will be used to award a grant to an LEA in accordance with 53F5220. Next slide. When submitting the results of your assessment, the summarized results of your school safety needs assessment will be submitted through a Qualtrics links provided through your LEA. We are currently working on that right now, and LEAs will be provided training and support to set up the school safety needs assessment summary form in their Qualtrics account. The application for alternatives will be considered by the state security chief, as discussed earlier by Lieutenant Barnes. And I will now turn it over to Rhett and Melissa.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chief Pennington and School Safety Center. I hope that this training so far, and I hope that this playbook has been supportive and that it will help you with understanding a little bit more about the school safety requirements and implementation. A recording of this town hall will be uploaded to our resources page on the School Safety Center webpage along with a link to the playbook. And at this time, if you will please utilize the question and answer feature for any questions that you might have, and we will start answering those questions.
Hey, Rhett, we did have one question come in on from the YouTube channel. Let's try that. They want to know, where can they find the Qualtrics form in Utah grants? They could not seem to find it anywhere.
I assume that's for the school safety and security specialists. Ashley, can you take that?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. So when you're logged into Utah Grants and you access the FY25 School Safety and Security Specialist grant, the link to Qualtrics is in the application links section. So as you move through that grant application, as you move through those tabs, there will be an application links, and there will be one that directs you to that Qualtrics form.
Thank you.
All right. It looks like they said the Q&A on Zoom is disabled. I apologize for that. Let me check into that really quick.
In the meantime, let's unmute those who have their hands raised, and let's let them ask their questions, please.
I think Steve was first. If Steve wants to go first.
Thank you, Scott. Are you able to unmute him, Melissa, Steve? There we go.
Hi, thank you. Great presentation so far. A question I have is there funding available for the mental health assessment and the need to carry, or the recommendation to carry assessments that have to go on? Those could get expensive.
Thank you, Steve. Scott?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that, but I'm not happy to give the answer. The answer is no. There is $500 associated. That $500 can be spent in whatever form. We've done our best to try to estimate the costs, and we would love to see those costs stay low. Part of the recommendation, again, with costs associated with a full psychological eval that normal law enforcement would have to go through, we've stripped down that to include just those 4 components, which is significantly reducing the cost. But the answer, Steve, is yes, there still is a cost, and there currently isn't any funding in the legislation for that. We'd love to see that change. So there's others that would like to see that. We can advocate for that. Certainly will.
All right, let's see if we can unmute Hanifi, Melissa. And if I've mispronounced your name, I apologize.
Let's see.
Hi, Hanifi. Yes, you said it right. So the question is, need to know, like, you were mentioning that only the school guardian to be known by the security specialist and the director. Like, how about the school principals? Like, do they need to know or not? Or will that create any problem? Like, because it's a Class B misdemeanor, right?
No, the school principal, that's a great question. The school principal is considered a school administrator, and they're in that need to know. And they would be approving the guardian at that point.
And how about like vice principals? Because sometimes, principals may be out and they are kind of like the admins in charge.
Yeah, I believe the school administrators have that need to know.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Let's see if we can unmute Chief Porter.
Hi, Red and team. Thank you for putting on this training. My question is, how do safety specialists sign up for the onboarding training on October 16th?
Ashley?
Yes, that's a really good question. So in that Qualtrics report where the LEA level submits all of their school safety and security specialist designations, part of that contact information is their email addresses. So we will be using those reports and that contact information to create a listserv to reach out to all designated specialists.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Um, and Randy, I'll let you know that I will sure to give you the responses to your quadrants. There was a little bit of an error in the form, so I'll send that form to you with your responses.
Great, thank you.
Rhett, we have a question that says, when does this whole Armed Guardian have to start?
Jeremy?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
you know,
the selection of that would be through, and thanks for bringing that up, Lonnie. The needs assessment, when that's being done, then that decision will be made. Some schools have already determined that they are going to use a guardian. They've already identified who those guardians are. But as far as the requirement, it would come from that needs assessment, making that determination on which of the three components are going to be utilized, whether it be the SRO, the armed guardian, or the armed security guard. And then based upon that, establishing that appropriate timeline for implementation of that. And that would be dependent upon the selection criteria, having to get through the mental health assessment, and then going to an available training.
can I also add to that? The
Yes.
idea of safety shouldn't be put off. If we can move quickly on this, please do. However, there isn't a current deadline for this. The discussions that I'm in are suggesting that by school year 2025, have these pieces in place. And again, that's the conversations that I'm with. If that changes or that's different, we will let you know. But please plan by next school year to be in compliance with this or sooner. And I want to emphasize or sooner.
And before we answer another question, I just wanted to clarify a point with that $500 stipend. That $500 stipend goes directly to the guardian who is volunteering for the position. And so the $500 would not even be available for mental health assessment because they won't get the $500 stipend until they complete the training. And in order to be selected for the training, they have to go through the mental health assessment. So just wanted to clarify that.
All right, another question. When will the link from Qualtrics for the needs assessment be sent out?
I'll take that one. Please watch for that. We will be communicating that along with the process with you in the very near future. We will communicate that through our listservs.
Another one is also when will they be able to expect funding?
Funding, can you, whoever asked that, can you please clarify which funding? Is it the $500 or is it the school safety and support grant funding?
Okay, we can come back to that one. This is one that I think a lot of people have a question on. Can teachers be guardians? I've heard conflicting information.
Okay, so as far as the statute states, teachers or individuals with a primary role for the care of children in classrooms cannot be a guardian. Unless it is that does not qualify as a school employee for the Guardian program, unless it's fewer than 100 students. That being said, if there are LEAs out there that are running into situations where they can't find anybody, there is a teacher who has for example, a background in law enforcement. They retired from law enforcement, became a teacher. They are a veteran of our armed services, a variety of things. But if there is a teacher who is they've volunteered to be a guardian, and there is a plan in place of how that would be implemented, then the individual school LEA would be able to apply for an approved alternative under that general demonstration of need. So they have identified a solution, they've identified a problem, they've identified the solution, and they would be able to apply for an alternative under that general demonstration of need with that example. But by the statute as it currently sits, unless it's fewer than 100, a school employee could not be augmented to include a teacher unless it's fewer than that 100. So a teacher would not qualify by the standard as it is now. But again, those approved alternatives are out there.
Thank you. And Jeremy, if I could just add to your answer, I think that was very well said. And just another perspective to add to that. in addition to that guidance. The reason that it should not be a teacher, generally speaking, is because we don't ever want students left alone in the event of an emergency. We need a trusted adult to be able to guide, monitor, and direct students. And so if your alternative includes a classroom that would be left alone, it's likely that that alternative would not be accepted. We need to really be thoughtful about how we're looking at these alternatives and what makes the best sense for student safety. So just encourage you to think through classroom settings, what resources you have at your school, and when applying for alternatives, really thinking through the needs of your students and how they would have access to the most accessible safety routes with the best guardian. Guardian meaning teacher, not the school guardian, but the teacher, the person in charge of the students, to get them to a safe and secure place.
And Melissa, the next two I think can be answered in a similar way, so I can take those. The first question is, do we need a school guardian if we have an SRO part-time? The follow-up question, which I'm hoping to answer both at the same time, but the follow-up is, if a school has a full-time SRO, do we need to provide a guardian if the SRO is not going to be at school for a day or multiple days? The intent of the bill, and Chief Pennington can correct me if I'm misspeaking at all here, but the intent of the bill is that when school is in session, so bell to bell, essentially, that there would be coverage by one of the three or a collaboration of the three. So if your school resource officer is part-time, they're not on site full-time when bell to bell when school is in session, then yes, the guardian or armed security guard route would have to be looked at, or an alternative solution for that. And then same thing with the school with the full-time SRO, but they're gone for multiple days for training. And that happens. We understand that it happens for training. We understand that SROs get called out for court. If they're in charge of any other investigations with their law enforcement agency, they're called out from the school, and we understand that. But that would be the intent of the bill, is to provide that armed coverage from bell to bell, or when school is in session.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. And Melissa, there's a handful of questions on the Guardian program, so I'm going to try to address most of them. I know we're tight on time. As far as if no one volunteers, is it going to be considered as an exception? That is one of the exceptions you can apply for approved alternative to the Guardian, is that can be a teacher or principal. Again, with what's already been said, we certainly would rather have somebody than nobody. That's going to be done just on an annual basis. You will need to resubmit the following year. The hope is you become compliant with the verbiage in the law. If you do get an alternative in that year, that the following year you do comply with that. As far as the Guardian training hours, there's some talk in here about hourly rate and the hours. It's a minimum standard that's been set that's at 28 hours. That's based on the requirements in the bill, some feedback we've got from education stakeholders on time. The expectation would be the guardians of school employees, so they should be being paid their hourly rate by the school district who's sending them there. That stipend is for them to utilize to buy a holster, upgrade their firearm, ammunition, whatever the case may be. You probably say, or if you haven't, maybe you read in the news a quote about it's not about the money, because it's not. There's no amount of money that we're going to pay someone to willingly go risk their lives. These are people who are already willing to do so. They're already have a CFP and carrying at school. These are people that we see nationally in active attacks who are trying to intervene and don't have the tools or training or resources necessary to do so. So don't get that misconstrued. As far as let's see, there was another one down here with guardians. The Guardian training, it is ready. So that was sent out to the county security chiefs in early August. The mental health screening assessment recommendation is complete. That was completed in June. The messaging obviously is in the playbook, and I think was sent out recently in an email. So you should have that if you're ready to move forward with that. As far as the date requirement, as Scott mentioned, the sooner the better for sure. But the date in the bill is you have to get your needs assessment done, and then a recommendation could be made back on what option. I want to remind people that the Guardian is not your only option. You certainly, if you are not comfortable with that, can look into an SRO and or armed private security personnel in your area to fulfill that need. So just a broad overview of a bunch of questions that are on there regarding the Guardian program.
Thank you, Chief Pennington. Any other questions?
So there's a lot. Let's see. In regards to the protective film on the first floor of school buildings, is there a specific thickness that is required?
So I'll take that, Melissa. That's being discussed right now. We're going to set a base level standard. There's not a one size fits all answer to that. You can't just say you have to have a certain thickness of film because that's going to change depending on, honestly, it can change from the foyer of a building to an exterior window of a building. So we will set a base standard that's been vetted by American Society of Testing Materials. We're currently looking into that. That'll come out in rule. So in the near future, well, rulemaking takes some time. In the future, here shortly, we should have a direction on what the base standard is for the film.
Okay, thank you. Here's another one about the mental health assessment. Who is responsible for the payment of the assessment, the LEA or the individual?
It would be the LEA.
Okay, so here's one. Do you need to fill out the Qualtrics survey every year, even if the safety specialist and director are the same as they were last year? And do they both get a stipend?
So let me answer that one. So yes, every single year designation needs to take place in the process of Qualtrics and Utah grants. And in order to receive the stipend, which the funding is ongoing to pay for stipends for school safety and security specialists every year. But in order to receive that stipend, you do need to request for reimbursement through Utah grants each year.
Brett, can I add to that the $3,000 stipend is only for the school safety and security specialists and not for the LEA level school and security director?
Thank you, Ashley. And they can't be divided. It needs to be one stipend per school.
Okay, this question is, have other states used volunteers for this same position? And I'm assuming they mean the school guardian.
Yes, there are other states that have the Guardian program, specifically Texas and Florida. And there was a great amount of research that went into consideration with this bill from the bill sponsor, Representative Wilcox, who had visited Florida, who had many conversations with Florida regarding their Guardian program, and the School Safety Center also visited Florida as well.
Is there a list of approved organizations who can be hired to provide armed guards?
So we're not approving vendors necessarily. You would need to reach out to people in your area to determine if they're doing that or not. Keep in mind the armed security guard also has a couple of requirements similar to the Guardian. They do have to have a concealed firearm permit. That's because they're not sworn law enforcement. They need to do so to legally carry a gun on school campus. And then they need to also complete the Guardian training. So just keep that in mind if you are going to look at the armed security guard approach.
This one is, can the school's board of directors have knowledge of the guardian's identity?
Can you repeat that question?
Yes. Can the school's board of directors have knowledge of the guardian's identity?
The statute specifically states school administrator. And so I would probably lean on legal services for that. To determine and articulate what the school administrator means. I've had the conversation with some superintendents as well, asking that same question. Obviously, a superintendent is an administrator of the LEA, but where that bill specifically says school administrator, not district level and things like that, I would recommend that the LEA or those individuals reach out to their legal services to interpret that.
Can you please list a few positions that might be appropriate to serve as an SS and SS other than the assistant principal? So is the school security guard Who could be that other than the assistant principal?
Well, a school security guard would be through that private contracted company. So a school security guard would be an
Jeremy,
individual.
I think they're asking about the school safety and security specialist.
Okay, I'll let you take that then,
Oh,
Ashley.
you're right,
Go
Ashley,
ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead, Jer.
Well, I was just wanting to clarify the guard is going to be employed by an agency, an armed security agency that is providing those services to the school, and so they wouldn't have positions within the school or be school employees. Now, school safety and security specialists could be. It's not limited to assistant administrators. School safety and security specialist is open, and it's not even limited to, or it can include teachers as well with the school safety and security specialists.
We have time for one last question, and I've seen this several times on YouTube and here, but they want to know if the SRO or the armed guardian need to be on the campus all day, every day. And I know we've already kind of touched based on that a little bit. Could you just explain a little bit more, like for after school events, football games, athletics, things like that? Those questions are
No,
coming.
no, there's no expectation for that. The intent of the bill is school is in session. So if there is classroom times of instruction taking place, the extracurricular activities, out of school events, field trips, things like that. No, it is bell to bell in the building during periods of instruction.
Okay. All right, Rhett.
So, Melissa, I know we were out of time for questions. I guess I would just like to reiterate that the regional training specialist for my office, 6 of the 8 are in place. We're just waiting on Southern Utah and Northern Utah to complete their background. If you have any specific questions that aren't being answered, you certainly can reach out to the person in your area. I'm happy to come down, or Lieutenant Barnes can come down and meet with your group if need be, or your county security chief can reach out. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that, law enforcement and or the education side of the house.
Thank you. I'll turn the time back to you, Rhett.
Thank you. Thank you, team, and thank you, participants, for joining us this afternoon for this town hall. Again, a recording of this town hall will be available on our website under resources, as well as a link to the playbook. We hope you all have a good rest of your day, and thank you for your ongoing dedication to school safety.